Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's business studies lesson. My name is Tidi Sotlaka, and this lesson is brought to you by the Northern Cape Department of Education in collaboration with Bagama Research and Development. Today we look into a main topic in paper 1 called business operation, and we do the revision based on business operation subtopics, and the subtopics include the human resource function together with quality of performance. And I'm your presenter, Tidi Sotlaka. Now, let's start. Learning outcomes. By the end of this unit, you should be able to know, number 1, the structure of the paper, number 2, the main topics in paper 1, together with interpretation of section B and section C, focusing on business operations. That is the focus for today's revision lesson. Now as we proceed, structure of the paper, you have section A, you have section B, and section C. And I repeat, you have section A, section B, and section C. And your section A is having only one question, which is compulsory to answer. This is question 1. So your question 1 or section A is a compulsory short question allocated 30 marks, and it assesses both business environments and business operations, wherein 15 marks is allocated for business operations and 15 marks is also allocated for business environment. And the time you should spend there is 20 minutes, and 20 minutes of your time should be spent addressing question 1.1, which is multiple choice, addressing 1.2, which is choosing the correct word from the box and concepts provided, and addressing 1.3, which is matching items. So that is your question 1, section A, compulsory short questions. Then we have section B, and remember, the focus is on what? Business operations. So that is the focus. Then we have section B. Section B, the instruction is clear to you to say choose any 2 questions. And each question in section B is allocated 40 marks. Meaning when you choose 2, you are going to have a total mark of 80 in section B. And the time you should spend is 70 minutes. And we have 3 questions. And the instruction is choose 2 out of the 3 questions. The question is question 2, is question 3, is question 4. You are allowed to answer question 2 and 3. You are allowed to answer question 2 and 4. You are also allowed to answer question 3 and 2 or 3 and 4. Now, the understanding that we should be having at the end of this revision lesson is to say, question 3 will have business operations. Business operations subtopics. And the business operations subtopics include human resources. They also include quality of performance. Quality of performance. Now, that's question 3. And with question 4, you are having miscellaneous question, which is a combination of business environment and a combination of business operation, wherein 20 marks is allocated. And the 20 marks will mean 10 marks will go to human resource, 10 marks will go to quality of performance. Under question 3, it will mean 20 marks goes to human resource and 20 marks goes to quality of performance. Meaning in total, it has 60 marks allocated and 30 marks allocated between the 2 subtopics. And then we also have to have that understanding when going to section C. Section C is now an essay type question allocated 40 mark, and the time you should spend is 30 minutes writing your essay. And let's be clear, We have question 5 and question 6. We did the revision for business environment. Now the focus is on business operation, wherein we are saying the essay can either be human resources or it can be quality of performance. So it can either be human resources or quality of performance. So when you are choosing here, you should know that if you are studying both, you are still safe because you still have the 30 marks that will be from section B and 30 marks from section B as well, and you can still score 40 marks. Either the question becomes HR or becomes quality of performance. So you are still safe. So look at it in a holistic manner to say you need to study everything for you to be safe and get quality marks. Now let us go to the main topics. The main topics for paper 1 is business environment and business operation. The focus of our lesson is on business operations, wherein the following are the subtopics under paper 1 is the impact of recent legislation, is the business strategies, is the business sectors and their environments. Then you also have human resources function together with quality of performance. These are the subtopics for paper 1. But for business operations, we only focus on the yellow highlighted subtopics because these fall under the main topic we call business operations. Business operations, which is human resource, which is quality of performance. And by now you should be having the understanding that this will be assessed in question 1, this will be assessed in question 3, this will be assessed in question 4, and it will also be assessed in question 6. That is your business operations. And now let us look into business operations typical essays to say how can they assess you when it comes to essays. The essay can either be human resource functions or the essay can be on quality of performance. So now let us look into a typical exam question or a typical essay question on business operations subtopics. I have a typical essay for you here on human resources, wherein you have the preamble, the question, and the sub-questions. Now, the preamble, remember, before I say anything, you know by now, Mr. Tlaka said, we should not what? Talk to me. Talk to me. We should not what? Quote. Do not quote from the preamble. Please. Do not quote from the preamble. As you can see, questions there, they are not asking you to quote or identify from the preamble because this is not a scenario. This is a preamble to help you remember what the essay that you are about to write with is about. Therefore, I will write together with you. Let's do it again. Do not quote. Do not quote, do not use any sentence or phrase from the preamble in your introduction, in your body, or in your conclusion. Please, please, good people, please, my good learners, just do the right thing. Where's our focus? The focus is here. That's where you start writing. That's where you start using your pen after taking the instruction. Write an essay on human resource functions in which you include the following. What are you including? Outline the selection procedure as a human resource activity. Explain the role of the interviewer before the interview. Discuss the legal requirements of an employment contract. Evaluate the impact of fringe benefits on a business. That is what is expected of you. Do not quote in the preamble. Do not use whatever information in the preamble in your introduction or in your conclusion or to answer these 4 sub-questions that you are having, which is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, the preamble says, the business follow the correct selection procedure to fill vacant posts in order to minimize fruitless expenditure. They also ensure that their interviewers understand their role before conducting interviews. the successful candidate and employer must know the legal requirements of an employment contract. Businesses must also ensure that newly appointed employees should receive proper induction. Therefore, we say, when we look into the two, there's nothing to be quoted and used as an answer. However, remember the structure of your essay should have introduction, should have the first sub question, the second, the third, the fourth, and conclusion. Do not write the word body. We don't want to see the word body in your essay. We will know with the first sub question, with the second sub question, with the third sub question, and with the fourth sub question to say this is the body of the essay. So this is how they can ask you on human resource. This is the essay. It can be anything under the human resource can be assessed. So to be safe, study everything under the human resource so that you smile. If you don't smile in the essay, you will smile in section B. That is why I'm saying study everything. Now we look into another question 6, which is business operations, typical essay. Now, the essay is on what? Let's check the preamble. The preamble will give us an idea. The preamble will give us a what? An idea. It says here, businesses need to have quality measures to ensure success of the business. Okay, we see the word quality. So somehow, this essay might be on quality of performance. Let's see. Implementation of quality control and assurance helps the business to ensure quality products. Okay. Now we have an idea. Implementation of quality concepts allows for greater benefits, okay? And then all business functions should ensure quality of performance, and the quality of cycles should contribute to continuous improvement of processes and systems. Therefore, let's check the instruction. Where is your focus? Yeah, my good people, my good learners, that's where we focus. Write an essay on the following: quality of performance, in which you include the following aspects. You outline the differences between quality control and assurance. You explain the quality indicators of the general management and production function. You also discuss the role of quality cycles in improving quality, and then suggest the benefits of a good quality management system. Now, that is your essay that can be assessed. This one, remember, the examiner can decide to say, okay, we don't want to ask quality control and assurance, but we are asking what? We are asking quality management and performance. So that's how they can alternate. And then if they don't want these business functions, they can ask other business functions. If they don't ask about quality cycle, they can ask ways in which TQM can reduce the cost of quality. They can also ask about what? The PDCA model. And then when you look into the benefits of a good quality management system, it can also be asked, and if this doesn't appear in section C, they appear in section B. If they don't, they appear in section A. So studying everything makes you safe. So now let us look into typical section B on question 3, which is on business operations, with the focus on firstly the human resource function. Thereafter we look into quality of performance. Let us see on how you can be assessed under question 3, looking into human resources. Now, human resource function. Human resource function is a function that deals with taking care and ensuring that they recruit, select, induct, and also place employees in the appropriate position where they contribute and create value for the business. So the human resource function has to deal with the following activities. The human resource function has to deal with the recruitment, has to also deal with selection of the candidate that has applied after the recruitment recruitment, and then after selecting the candidate, they need to induct the candidate, meaning to introduce the candidate. Thereafter, they need to place the candidate in a position where they are going to create value for the business, and they will then determine the salary of the employee or candidate. Thereafter, look into fringe benefits that are to be offered to the employee or candidate that got employed or selected, and then they also have legislation on employees wherein the human resource manager is implicated or is involved directly, because this function deals with the workers of the business. Therefore, we have labor law talking to workers law according to the South African Constitution, such as the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, such as the Skills Development Act, such as Labor Relations Act, such as Employment Equity Act, wherein the human resource manager should know about those legislations in order to ensure that employees are not violated, employees are improving their skills, employees can complain and have a platform where they are able to discuss matters through the labor relations, and employees are treated equally in the workplace. So now let us look into the assessment. How can the examiner ask you? You have a scenario which is now also considered to be an indirect question. So the instruction is to read the scenario below and answer questions that follow. You have Tembisa Cash and Carry. Tembisa Cash and Carry, which is TCC. Tembisa Cash and Carry is looking for a supervisor to manage workers. The vacancy was advertised in the local newspaper. The human resource manager had to prepare for the selection procedure. Now, that's 3.1.1. 3.1.2. Explain the advantages of the method of recruitment identified in question 3.1.1 for the business, which is for 4 marks. Then, explain the correct selection procedure for TCC. Now, I will give you 5 minutes to answer this question, because human resource is something that we should all enjoy, because we will be workers one day and we should know how we should be treated. So now let me give you 5 minutes, then you try to answer, then I'll come back with the solution. So I give you your 5. Welcome back. Now, let us look into the scenario again. Tembisa Cash and Carry is looking for, they are looking for what? A supervisor to manage workers. Okay. The vacancy was advertised. Advertising means it was posted somewhere. And where was it posted? Where was it advertised? In the local newspaper. Now, let's check. In the local newspaper. Now, identify the method of recruitment used by TCC. Motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario. Now, we have 2 methods of recruitment. We have a method that is internal recruitment, or another one is external recruitment. What is the difference? Internal means the advertisement will only be seen by workers who are already hired by the business inside. Hence, we call it internal. External, now, is a method of recruitment that will be seen by everyone outside of the business, allowing them to apply. So, the method of recruitment is dependent on the source of recruitment. Therefore, when you check the source of recruitment, you have local newspaper. Local newspaper. So with local newspaper, what are we talking about? A local newspaper, it is given to community members for free. So meaning if the advertisement will be on the community newspaper, which is the local newspaper in this regard, we say the answer is external, because it will be seen by people outside of Tembisa Cash and Carry. So the answer is external recruitment. Easy. Now, 3.2 says to you, suggest the role of the interviewer and interviewee during. So one thing you should realize, 3.1.1 and 3.1.2, these are considered to be indirect and they link very well to the what? To the scenario. So now let us look into the solution to check if I was correct. External recruitment, excellent. And I know that you chose external as well. And the motivation should be the vacancy was advertised in the local newspaper. Let's check if I'm correct. That is correct. Then 2 marks here, 1 mark here, and we have a total of 3. Then we move to what now? Discussing the impact. And now we discuss the positives. And remember, the positives is people who are hired from outside or candidates from outside the business, from outside, who come from the community, who come from other provinces, who come from other countries. They are considered to be external. Therefore, the new candidates bring new talents or ideas into the business. That is 1. Number 2, there's a larger pool of candidates to choose from. As I said, the business can, when it's considering external recruitment, they are going to have a larger pool of candidates applying for the position, meaning there's more talent from outside. Hence, we say there's a larger pool of candidates to choose from. It may help the business to meet affirmative action and BBBEE targets because they are able to comply with the law in the process of recruiting candidates. Furthermore, it minimizes conflict amongst current employees who may have applied for the post. So it reduces conflict between the employer and the employee. Those are the advantages. And remember, what I'm showing you here is that the question was on the advantages of the method of recruitment. So the advantage of external, these are the advantages. So as you can see, that's the advantage that comes with recruiting outside of the business using external recruitment. Now, explain the correct selection procedure. Now, I've used option 2 of the recruitment procedure because it's shorter and straight to the point. The selection procedure happens after the recruitment, after the candidates have seen the advertisement and decided to apply. The business will then have the responsibility to do what? The business will have the responsibility to select. Now, selection procedure is what happens in the process of selecting candidates who have applied. So the first thing that happens is that the business will receive documentation. For example, this will be application form and sorting them according to the criteria of the job. That is number 1. Number 2, the business will have to evaluate CVs. What is to evaluate? To evaluate is to study something carefully, meaning the business will have to go through the CVs. The business will have to go through the what? The CVs. For instance, here I have a CV with me. So the business will have to go through the CV, go through the CV. They are evaluating, checking the qualifications and everything for every candidate who has applied. And then create a short list and screen applicant. What is a short list? Is to basically say, out of all the CVs that I was practically checking for you here, to say who qualifies and who doesn't qualify. Then check information on the CVs and contact the references. Again, we are still on the CVs to say they will check references on the CV to say, okay, this is the reference, and call them and call the references, contact the references. Thereafter, conduct preliminary sifting interviews to identify applicants who are not suitable for the job, although they have met the required standards. Then 1.2 suggests the role of the interviewer and interviewee during the interview. Now let's look into the role of the interviewer during. The role of the interviewer, remember, is working for the employer. But the interviewee, the candidate that wants to work for the business. So what is the role of the interviewer during that? Is to allocate the same amount of time to each candidate during the interview when the interview is taking place. Is to introduce members of the interviewing panel to each candidate or interviewee. That's another one. Is to make the interviewee feel at ease so that they can answer. That is the role of the interviewer. And then explain the purpose of the interview to the panel and the interviewee. Then it is to do not inform or mislead the interviewee. Now, what is the role of the interviewee? The interviewee is the one who has applied with their CV and they were shortlisted and they were called for an interview. Tring, tring. Mr. Tlaka, please come join us in an interview on this date. Be ready. All the best. Then Mr. Tlaka goes to the interview. When Mr. Tlaka gets to the interview, Mr. Tlaka has to what? What is the role of Mr. Tlaka? Mr. Tlaka has to greet the interviewer by name with a solid handshake. How are you, sir? Yes, I am Mr. Tlaka. Yes, we are pleased to meet you, Mr. Tlaka. With the what? Solid handshake and a friendly smile. You are looking for a job. You need to smile. Then listen carefully to the questions before responding. When they ask the question, Mr. Tlaka has to listen. If Mr. Tlaka applied for the job and Mr. Tlaka is in the interview, so Mr. Tlaka has to listen carefully to the question before responding. Thereafter, make eye contact with the interviewer and the panel and have a good body posture or body language. Thereafter, show confidence and have a positive attitude and be assertive. And then also, they need to ask for clarity-seeking questions in order for the interviewee to be successful. Then we move and go to another question. 3.3. Read the scenario below and answer questions that follow. With 3.3, we're going to do it together. Now we have Maps Computers. MC. Maps Computers specializes in the manufacturing of computers. The business makes computers. MC advertised. Very key. We want to know where did they advertise and what are they advertising. Remember, this is a business. Maybe they're advertising their product. But what is the scenario saying? MC advertised a vacancy for a project manager. Now, they have advertised a vacancy, a position inside their business, on their business notice board. On their what? Business notice board. Now, what is a notice board? A notice board is used inside the business to post any announcements. Now, meaning those announcements are supposed to be seen by people who are inside the business. Therefore, let's look at the question. Identify the method of recruitment used by MC in the scenario above. Motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario above. Explain the advantages of the method of recruitment identified in question 3.3.1 for the business. So the focus of this question is on the advantages of the method of recruitment. Now, let us look into the internal. Internal, why? This is why. This is why the answer is internal. The business notice board. Where is the business notice board? It is inside the business. It is inside the business. Therefore, the answer should be internal recruitment. Why? MC advertised the vacancy for a project manager on their business notice board. Therefore, we have 3 marks. Just like that. Are we together? Talk to me. I'm here for you. I should be singing for you, but I don't know how to sing. But I'm here for you. So, with the recruitment methods, the scenario will say advertising a vacancy on. That's where you get your answer. On what? On a notice board. On a business notice board. On a local newspaper. On Facebook. On Twitter. Who can see on Facebook? Everyone outside. Who can see in the notice board? Not everyone. Explain the advantages of internal recruitment. The advantages of hiring inside. The advantage is the recruitment process is faster and less expensive if the candidates are known to the business. Opportunities for promotion reward good work and motivate current employees. It provides opportunities for career paths within the business. Reliable and key staff members are retained if they are promoted or transferred within the business. Staff morale and productivity increases if suitable staff members are promoted regularly.